Sure. Yep. Let's just take a second. Yep.
Hey, Scott, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. We're in action. So anyway, you guys only gave us like 24 hours to design an entire dispatch board, so don't get your...
Well, you had this model to go.
No. It was only in our... Theirs was crap in ours. So anyway, we threw together a whiteboard, so in like 20 minutes, and then Angela took care of all the details. But so I think I'm just going to tee it up from a high level, structure-wise, what we see, but then she'll fill in all the details of how we actually, want to get stuff connected. But the main thing is from Equipsoft, we're going to have the resources, which is the specific technician numbers, and then we have, every service order can have multiple line segments. So it's like line 1 is, fix the radiator, and line 2 is diagnose an issue with such and such, but it has the same overall service order. And so it's a line, every service order you open, it's going to have multiple lines. So the main thing is our scheduling would be done at the line level. So we essentially have, here are all the different jobs in the company that are lined up, and what the main thing we're trying to accomplish is to link that with a graphical schedule of some point so that the managers can filter down to the jobs that they want to see for their techs and actually drag and drop to assign so that they have a schedule of here's what my team is working on this week. So what we're thinking...
When you say line, you mean segment, right? Like item line.
Exactly.
Okay.
Service item.
Okay. Got
Yep.
it.
So what I'm thinking is like the basis will be all the service item lines, which tied to service item lines, is the allocation, which that's what feeds into the cheat sheet. And the way the original one worked that was so rigid and locked down is basically on the service item line, even though it was on the sub-screen with allocations, is it had a date and a start time and an end time. And like that was the dispatch board.
Right.
But it became so limiting because anything from the perspective of, one, I want to work on this job today and do the rest of it Monday. Like it wasn't like you couldn't split jobs. You couldn't say this one I want to be like this 3-day period, and this one I just want to be this. And it was forcing the managers to think to the hour level. They didn't even really care on the hour level. They want to know today that my guy's first he's going to do this, then he's going to do this, and then he's going to do this. And then that second job, that's going to carry over into tomorrow. And so what we're thinking is doing it on the service item lines with columns for like date and time was just too rigid and too boxed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking we use service item line as like the core of saying these are all the jobs that need to be assigned, but then there's basically a master schedule table that instead of it being like horizontal, like with more columns, it's more of like a vertical rows of basically every block on there is a detailed saying someone said this job is going to be worked on June 2nd, in the morning. another line says, hey, that same job is going to be worked on June 6th in the afternoon.
Okay.
And that it's two independent things. Now you
Right.
can flow, for example, you could flow back to the service item line in EclipseSoft saying, here's the next scheduled date that this is going to be worked on. Like we could do some stuff, down the road to summarize that.
Right.
But the main thing is we don't want boxed in of all this traffic going to service item line. We're thinking the architecture would actually be its own table.
Gotcha. Okay.
So whether that's in EclipseSoft, in a SQL table somewhere, I don't. You guys can decide what works best. But the other thing that I would say is we would want it to be one of the things that was terrible about the other dispatch board is you had to sign in, it timed out after an hour. Every single time you had to say, my name is this, I work at this store, these are the texts I want to see. So again, I mean, it's inner detail, but I would just say high level, we need to be able to store either for the manager, here's the view they want to see, or else we remember what they did the last time. But either way, we want sort of the idea being in EclipseSoft, they create service orders. They may or may not assign them to a technician at that point. We don't know. But we can see all of those jobs and we can schedule them, for a technician. And so the only key link back is going to be on the assignment or the allocation.
Okay.
Of saying this job is allocated to this tech. If that's different than what is in EclipseSoft, or if EclipseSoft's blank, we want to pass that through. So I think it's going to be out of EclipseSoft to display all the lines, and really the only thing going back in is passing this job is for this tech. If that's different than who it's assigned to in EclipseSoft, we want to either update it or fill it in.
Okay.
So that's
T-sheet pickup. I forget.
and then T-sheets will pick it up from there.
Does this do anything with times though? Date or time? It's just
Nope.
Okay. Just who's assigned to it.
Yep.
Are you assigning a tech is there a list of techs assigned to each service order, or are they assigned at the line level?
So good question. So yeah, all the techs are set up in EclipseSoft, and then there is a primary tech assigned to each service item line. So right now they're doing that already manually in EclipseSoft. The tricky thing is we think they're going to use this because right now they might guess it's one of the things they hate doing is they create a service order, they print it out, and then a week later they're like, oh, I want to give this to Denny to work on. I have to go find it in EclipseSoft, type in this service order, and assign it to Denny. Whereas now it's going to be on the schedule that they assign it to Denny, and it will fill in. The idea being it will write back to EclipseSoft saying line 1, it's for Denny.
Okay.
And we can get into the complicated the second technician, so that's down the road.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to tee that up. She has it written out with the details, and there's obviously many nuances as part of this, but I think we actually have it contained. This isn't one of those completely open-ended. I think we actually have it pretty well contained. So, all right, take it away.
All right. Well, this is just our mock-up of kind of what it would look like. So these things up here are controlling the axes on the calendar, and then these filters are controlling what shows down here in this thing you're just behind the bottom box.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah. This is all the lines, service item lines that are available for them to drag and drop up here according to however they narrowed it down. So that's the basic gist of how it works. You can see this job stretches over 2 days. This one takes the whole day, or in one thing, it could be broke each day into 4 quadrants because we talked to some of the managers and they said, well, we need priority. That's important. Like, you're going here in the morning, and we told this guy we'll be here after lunch, but we want to stay away from the hours, so we just made it 4. Technically,
General
like
quadrants, yeah.
early AM, late AM.
Basically,
early
guys
PM,
don't
late PM.
guys don't work on it's finish the job and move on to the
Right,
next
yeah.
thing.
You
So
don't-
like hours is not
If you don't finish this
Okay.
in 1 hour, stop it and go to the next thing and finish the whole thing and
Right.
then move on.
So this would function for both people who are just like, I just want to stack up. First you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. But it also works for someone who wants to say, in the morning you're doing this, and in the afternoon you're doing this.
Okay.
How do you envision that makes sense, like the stacking? How do you imagine the width of each of the, because your boxes up there are different widths? Because that's how they were drawn in Word, and that's,
Well, no, originally we were thinking that, so you see this estimated time thing down here?
right.
That if that's a field at the service item line level. So if it said 4 hours, it would be longer than if it said 1 hour. But then we found out that most of them weren't filling that in.
And even if they were, your time component is this way, right?
Right.
I mean, not really
Kind of.
specifically, like it's not, but
Yeah.
it would go this way.
They don't have to
Yeah, so that's,
really be,
that was the original thought, is it's like, oh, your long jobs are longer and your short jobs are shorter, but it's like, if it's inconsistently filled out.
but
And so, I mean, I guess one of the big questions is just from a snap, like, how do you snap it to that grid? And like, you can see at some of those, you want to be able to say, I know I have 3 1-hour jobs that I just want to be able to fit in there. Whereas up top, yeah, like, I see the complexity in developing that, of how do you store that to, like, so I would say we have flexibility there.
Okay.
Like, we mainly want to be able to say, in a certain block, you have, for example, early morning, if I know I have 3 1-hour jobs that I want you to do, I want to be able to drag
all
three
of them
three
there.
jobs into that. It can automatically just fill
Make
based
them all the
on,
same length.
like, if you threw 5 jobs into one, I think you could just make them skinnier. But if there's only 1 job, it can fill up the whole space.
Are you concerned about like overscheduling, or is that just on the manager and not?
It's on the manager.
Yeah.
We
just
don't
wanna
we don't have to
limit
tie in capacity at all.
it. Right.
But you do want to do that where you have 2, 2, 2, like,
Yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah, we don't want to limit
So
it.
as you
to the
drag it
only
in,
schedule for.
it's creating a new block and then expanding them. And
Which-
then you pull
which
it off,
actually-
and it will,
That answers the one question. Like, I think our idea is basically, it could just, based on the width of the column, like, it fills it. Like, you can basically say,
Right.
it's because those numbers, it ideally is going to show that, like, the SVO number, like, you might hover over top of it to show more detail. But if you think about it, if we had liked the idea that if you change the date range to be like 610 to 610 just today, like, picture that would be the whole width,
Then your
and so
bars
then
can
your
really
bars
long.
can be like a
Mhm.
responsive design to basically fill out the width of the column
right.
and divide up the space equally among, you just divide it equally among whatever jobs are in that slot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we have some flexibility there.
I mean, it depends. I mean, if you have a 1 day, you have the entire width to work with. But then if you want to show a whole week, there's a lot of information you got to move somewhere. Because if you're showing like the SEO number and the tech and all of that in one, because you have all that space in 1 day view, but you
Right.
have to figure out what you want to cut out.
Well, the easiest, I would say the easiest thing is that there would be, the data is all associated, it's just what we want to display. So what if, like, could you make it that if you hover over it, it like
Yeah,
displays,
like a rollover.
but otherwise it just
Yeah.
shows like the bare
The
minimum,
bare, whatever.
like an SVO number or a
SVO
customer.
You're saying
line
even on the
number or
wide view,
something.
you're fine with just bare bones information.
It probably is, yeah. Like that it's
I
like,
think as long as it shows the customer.
or is it actually
name.
customer name?
Yeah. I would say they showed me some of their other interesting Excel sheets and ways of scheduling now, and it was all just like,
Customer name.
like,
Yeah, I think you could just, like, limit the width, and then just, if it's wider, it just cuts it off, but there's a mouse over that has.
Or it just is like dot,
here's all
or
the info.
something.
Yeah,
Like if it's shrunk down, it might just, you might not even be able to see the SVO number.
yeah,
Right.
you can do that with CSS, if it overflows, you add .... at the end. You can actually
You
do
can
that
do
with
it right
process.
here.
Yeah, I don't remember how, but I've done it before.
all right, so we'll switch to this, since this probably has lots of, all right, so obviously we want to create a dispatch board. We kind of went over that first part, but each one is divided into quadrants by the technician and the date, so however many techs you display, they have to have their own box on each day, and then that box is divided 4 more times.
The one tricky thing that I saw in the design too is where you have it filling out all 4, like that one there in the big
Yeah,
blue one. Would it be okay if that was just, you drag, I guess you'd have to like, how would you drag it in there? Would you have to drag it 4 times to each of the
That
boxes?
was one of our
Would it
questions.
work to drag it into the first one and then from there, like, extend it down? Is that impossible?
Is
I
it
don't know.
possible to be like this?
Like
So
Like
it
a-
starts
make our own
here,
Excel?
and then it goes.
No, it's not impossible.
No,
Somebody's
so-
done it before.
So, I mean, the other, so shrink that up to just be like that. So that would be, if you could say, the first step is going to be, you have to drag it into the board.
Yeah.
The question is, we're going to be frequently saying, I have a job like that I need to do it tomorrow as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, we just need a way to easily
Even the
say,
copy function.
if it's like a simple
Sure.
copy and paste to the next day, or
Yeah, if like there's some kind of like, when you have it, you drop it, there's some kind of like toolbar or something that lets you expand the number, like fill to
Yeah.
whole day or half day, that you can make the thing bigger or smaller.
Easier than trying to do like a drag, like a,
Yeah, I think the
Down.
drag's gonna be hard.
that's fine.
If it's something that lets you
like-
expand it, like half
So-
day, full day,
We could absolutely, the train is just,
yeah.
you need to drag it into the board to say, like, it registers there. It just would be nice to be able to say, if I wanted to be the end, and to be honest, at the end of the day, if you want to say, it's just going to be a full day, and I know that, I'm just not going to schedule anything else that day. It's not the end of the world. Like,
Okay.
visually, it's not the end of the world that shows for the entire block.
If they're really picky about that, they could drop it 4 times.
Right.
That's what I was thinking
Exactly.
too. Yeah, you could do it that way. That's
But-
more work.
But I do know we are going to need an easy way to be able to say, like, it happened, he's going to work on this today, tomorrow, and the next day. So, like, if I drag it onto today, it would be nice to be able to say, I want to be able to do the whole day today, or I want to be able to copy this to another day. Some way to
Yeah.
quickly move it or extend it to
Okay.
another
I mean, I
day.
think probably the easiest way to do it would be, you click on it and it brings up a popover and says, add, more time today or more time later in the week.
Perfect.
Yeah, because then you could do the 2 and the 1, like where it's taking up the full day.
Like
You can
up
say
here.
extend later in the day or extend till tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So again, flexibility there,
Yeah.
whatever we can get. But yeah, that's the main.
I don't know if this is critical, but we had it being like anything that's in the first box is the colors, like they're all different colors, so it's easy to see how many separate jobs you had without reading all the names. So, yeah, drag and drop and get the service item line and place it on the calendar, and it creates that bar. We were saying the document number is the SVO number. The line number is that service item line number. They all are like 10,000, 20,000. So we can truncate it and get rid of all those trailing zeros. And then the customer name, which is probably the most important thing shrinking, it should get rid of the line number and the document number first. And
So maybe, just move customer name to the top and then say you can restrict it by, whatever capacity you have to display, the rest just is ...
So, comments, they might want to put something like specific about the job. We envision that maybe the tech will also be getting a copy of this or whatever, so that they know, like, okay, a comment might be, don't go here until after 2 p.m. or, beware of dogs or something, like, that the tech would need to know, or that the service manager needs to remember to tell the tech before he goes there. So, similar to hovering over the bar to see the SBO number and whatever, if it can show the comments, which so yeah, you have to figure out a way to be able to add a comment to the bar, and then also the whatever else was down here can also show. That's probably not as critical as the comments, but there's more info here that's pertinent than just the customer.
Jason, if you remember one of
So
the
the
other...
comments on the block level. Right?
So we have 2 comments.
Oh, I see, okay.
If it can be that you could just type in here, like type in there, comment, or that it would somehow be attached to the specific job in the block. And then when you would hover over, you'd be able to see it.
Wherever it is, it's just another column in that
Right.
table.
Exactly.
I'm thinking if we can keep it external, it's probably going to be a lot faster. Like, let's not go through QuickBooks at all, except to get the
Exactly.
top level list. You know,
Exactly.
just build its own database, and if we have to move something in later, then we just build another process that moves. But
Because that was one of the downfalls with the other dispatch
I
board.
would say so as well.
And I was even going to say, even the comments, they had no flexibility. Like, this is their schedule to plan their whole week, and you couldn't just type something.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to say, like, or
Yeah, have a little
if you're,
Even like
the point
we're
is,
having
if
a
you're
shop
out of the,
meeting.
exactly, if you just wanted to say shop meeting, like, to remind yourself that you couldn't do it. Like, you couldn't schedule it.
All right. So, we already talked about drop the same job on multiple days, consecutive or split up. I want you to go here on Monday morning and Wednesday afternoon. So yeah, some kind of copy to be able to say you're going here on a bunch of days in a row. If I was going to have a tech go to the same place 5 days in a row, I probably wouldn't want to drop it to fill all of these boxes. You put more than one job in each box. So we're saying when you drop a line onto the calendar, it doesn't disappear from the list right away. It gets marked as scheduled, which that in the yellow has to be stored somewhere. And I would point out that it has to be unlimited because technically you could be scheduled on a whole bunch of dates.
So this comes back to just that structure. I mean, I think the way, flip back to the graphical, because this is tricky. So the idea being, show them your upper right there. The filter is, we're thinking scheduled and unscheduled are 2 of the primary filters. That I want to show everything that I already did schedule for someone, and I want to show everything that's unscheduled.
Okay.
That field, I think, it could literally, whether it's stored service item line or whether it's just in the state, but the concept is that job is on the schedule. And so like with that being, so essentially when you drag that in, technically that service item line should now have the flag that it has been scheduled. So technically if you refresh the page, I mean, you guys would always have to figure out how you want to do refresh and, you know, but the idea of being when you refresh the page, if you were looking at an unscheduled view, that one is no longer there. Okay. You know what I mean? Like that's how we were thinking. Like it's not like it would need to, it wouldn't need to be like instant, like I drag it and now it's not here anymore. But on the page refresh, since that's one of our primary filters, like I think it would somehow have to.
It doesn't need to be, or you don't want it to be?
Probably don't.
Like if it drops, if you dragged it on there and it drops off.
That's fine.
Okay. So either way.
Either way is fine.
But then if they drag it off of there, then it would come back. If that's the only one.
I think, yeah, right. Or if you would right click and say like delete.
Okay.
It would essentially, if your flow field was this service item line no longer has any entries in the master schedule table, therefore it's unscheduled and it will show up in the unscheduled.
Okay.
filter view.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because, yeah, these are only affecting what's down here, not what's showing.
Okay.
Because if you click, just to clarify, if you click on schedule, we don't want all the scheduled jobs to disappear from the calendar. It's just
Oh, right.
Exactly. That would defeat the purpose.
Right. Okay.
If you click on schedule, there's nothing left on the calendar.
Right. So along with unscheduled and scheduled, we need to store some kind of like last or next date on the schedule, which we were thinking would be the closest date to today that this job is on the schedule, and it would be blank. It's not. This came because sometimes they send a text somewhere, and then the tech comes back and says, oh, I need to order more parts. I need to go back there, but they can't schedule it yet because they don't know when he's going back.
Okay.
So that was showing as this last scheduled date. So we made it that anything that was in the past was read as like a flag to the service manager that we went here before, the job wasn't finished because it would not be in here if it was finished. We need to think about when are we supposed to go back there.
Exactly. Because conceptually, you and I would think, like if we were just doing it, of like, you would just constantly be looking at the unscheduled and dragging them on. And then they're scheduled and we're done. But the reality of it is I scheduled something, he didn't finish. So the way we think we can get this is at any point in time, like they were looking, in the morning they might come in and hit their unscheduled and like, oh, here's all the jobs. And I want for my site, you know, the high priority jobs, I'm going to get them all scheduled. But then the other filter that they can look at is scheduled jobs that are still here because it's like I have a job that was scheduled, because keep in mind there's a later spot on here that we're going to exclude everything that repairs are complete or reviewed and stuff.
Okay.
So it's a very simple view of I click scheduled and here's all the jobs that it's like.
Yeah, obviously, if it's in the future, it doesn't matter. But if it's in the past, they need to be like, why isn't that closed? Or why
Like
isn't it under review yet?
It's still not done, but so like literally the view should be working with all the filters we have. You literally say, I want to see my scheduled jobs, and then you look at your scheduled jobs and it's all historical dates. That means I probably need to reschedule those because they're not done.
Done.
Right.
Or
Okay.
they need to be marked as done.
Right.
Right.
Oh, okay. So when you drop a line, so a service order could just have one line, but it could also have 3, 4, 5, whatever. So if we could have some kind of message asking, okay, so I drag line 1 onto the schedule, and the box asks me if that, or tells me there's 3 other lines with the same document number. Do you want to schedule those also to this block? Is that possible?
If you remember that example of
dragging.
SVO for this customer, job 1 is fix the radiator, job 2 is fix
I
the,
have a fake one.
you do.
This one.
Those two there.
Line 1 is 50-hour service, and line 2 is fix the headlight. They're in 2 separate lines because they're completely unrelated.
But if you're going out to Casey Smith to work on his BX tractor that he called about, most likely you're always probably doing both segments.
Right.
Right.
So it would be nice to not have to drag 1, drag 2, drag 3, drag 4. That it's basically if you drag 1 that has multiple segments, can you
That's
prompt
5 segments.
can you prompt to take all? Prompt to take
What if
all.
that's 5 segments? There's only 4 blocks for the day.
No, I would have to line them up in the
Oh,
same
we do them all in
block.
the same block. Okay. And then but then you have the controls that take it this way or take
If
it 2
you were
days.
like, oh, well,
Would that
these are
apply
all
to all of
gonna-
them, or would it apply to just the one you're dragging?
Good question.
I would say it can just, it wouldn't need, I don't think you would need the complexity to drag all 5 jobs
Okay.
to all
At
the
one
different
time,
ones.
yeah.
The idea is to get them on the board, because if you remember, that would sync back and make sure all 5 lines are assigned to the tech and TC.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what they would, I'm sure what they would do is they would drag, if it went multiple, they would probably drag line 1 across or whatever.
Okay.
They probably wouldn't, I
They
want
probably
to do
would
1,
drag
2,
all
3,
of
4, and
them.
5, unless they were actually doing them on different days. Then,
Well, then they would put
but yeah,
no.
I don't think we need the complexity of when you're doing a drag or a extend or whatever, that it has to try to take the other segments. I would say it's only on the initial plopping it on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So a way to get it, a job off the calendar, if you put it on and then decide you don't want it on there anymore. And then that has to flip that field back to unscheduled unless it's on there twice, you only delete one.
Are you okay with drag on and drag off?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking it's probably best to look to see if with something else, like somebody else has built. that
Well,
if we
a
can
lot of
go off
schedulers
this.
are like what they had, where it's by the hour.
Right.
So I was like, my dad wanted me to design something similar to this because he works at a garage. And a lot of what I found was, it's like hour by hour. And that's not what they wanted.
Right.
Um,
But it's on calendar.
so I think what you're going to find is a lot of more like a calendar view, like Outlook.
Okay. So you're probably just going to get all the interactions and build your own.
Most-
Okay.
Unfortunately. If there was a
Be
nice
fun.
calendar, this is what we wanted.
There's no way.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be exactly, yeah. Okay.
So when you drop it on there, the field in service items line is resource allocated. It needs to take the resource number from here for whichever one you dropped it for, and if that doesn't match what's already in the resource allocated field on the service item line, or the field is blank, it needs to write this number in there. And then that field pushes back to T-sheet and takes care of that.
Would it just be a recurring job every 1 minute that No. But the idea being, it wouldn't be off of, it wouldn't have to be at the point
That's drop.
you can decide. It could be a trigger that you drag it and it instantly does a check and update, or there could be a recurring check that is comparing your master view table to Equipsoft's master allocations table and comparing them, like whether you do it as a specific trigger or whether you do it as a recurring comparison. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like that bottom section, would still use the web services. and then the rest would be covered with like the things that don't change a lot would be covered with the job. So that bottom section would be like live, and like the part where it's assigned or not assigned, that would actually be a field in Equipsoft. It would flow back and forth so that anything you're filtering on would need to be in that. And then that way, if things come in Equipsoft, they're there right away. Like you refresh the page and they're there. But then the complexity on the top part is in its own database. And as you pull things in, that's what actually writes it to the side database. Or if you take it out, it gets rid of it.
That makes sense.
Because that's really the only part you're interfacing with Equipsoft on is just they're assigned and they're not assigned and who's assigned.
Exactly.
Right.
And is the job done?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we could still use the web services and be fast, but the top part would be its own thing.
Yep. And it's all just display. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, can our filters, the filters at the top or for the calendar, can that be remembered, or can we set up a default somehow for every person so they don't have to like fill out a whole bunch of
Everything.
stuff?
Well, you had a drop down for like location, like Intercourse.
Yeah.
Would you want someone from Intercourse to be able to schedule people from like Ashland?
Not really.
Ever?
Mm-hmm. Good question. In the developer mind, you need to know ever. Not normal. No, I'd say literally like they're scheduling for their location. Now there could be multiple people at Intercourse who can do scheduling of Intercourse, but yeah, I would say it's pretty locked down.
Because
So like,
we can check who's logged in and like doing the scheduling, and we can say, oh well, this guy's at Intercourse, so you can
You
schedule
just
for Intercourse people.
default them to,
So then do we need a drop down to just switch locations?
yeah, I think that was a carryover from the stupid dispatch board that they had, which was you had to pick everything.
right.
But I also didn't know from like an administrative point of view,
Oh, right.
someone like, not to say,
Globally.
yeah, more corporate would have to be doing like that.
Yeah, I think I would do it based on like your whatever's an Active Directory or whatever. Actually, it would be whatever your role center or location is in Equipsoft. So if someone corporate needed to fill in and like do Intercourse, they could switch their location in Equipsoft to be Middletown.
No, another way to do that would be, if you're an Ashland user, you can't change it. But if you're in corporate, you can change it.
No, that's true.
Because people in
Yep.
corporate would want to, but people at each location wouldn't need to.
Right. Yeah, that would work too. Yep.
Yeah. With that way, then you always have the option. The downside, it would have to come from the employee directory at that point, because I don't think people are tagged. Like, there's not responsibility centers corporate, right? I mean, and if you're switching,
No, it's
Right,
blank.
we just are
so
blank,
we'd have to find what field makes sense in the employee directory.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah, that one I would say anything, whatever setup makes the most sense,
okay.
we're fine with. We just need a way
Yeah.
to have them, the 95% of the time, going to be someone who is at their location scheduling their taxes, probably 98% of the time. But yeah, if there's a way that we can have a caveat that somebody can come see the schedule at another store, if they're given access,
Yeah, or
it's
if
not a
like
bad
somebody
idea.
was having issues and one of us needs to try and go in and see what they're seeing or something.
That's actually a good point there. For troubleshooting, just to be able to
Right.
see, I want to look at the Ashland schedule.
Right. That's why it's more corporate-wise it is.
I'm not going to schedule their text, but they may ask me.
But yeah, I also wanted to make it sure that, someone from Ashland didn't accidentally schedule someone from Intercourse. I clicked here, flipped to Intercourse, and now,
I'm scheduling stuff on here. No, you're exactly right.
So then one of the other fillers at the top is resource group, which those are already made in Equipsoft. All the texts are assigned to at least one resource group. Most of them are like an Intercourse. We have a combine shop and a tractor shop, or maybe Middletown has a Kubota shop.
So if you have
narrows the
20 techs,
subset,
yeah, if you have 20 techs and like if you're at Middletown but they have 20 techs, they have 3 different managers who are responsible for groups of techs. In EquipSoft, we have those techs grouped so that on the schedule it defaults to Middletown, but then they could pick. I want to do Middletown Kubota. I want to do Middletown Combine. But that one we would want them. Like that's where it would be nice if it would remember what you last looked at, but they absolutely need to be able to switch and say, hey, let me look at the Combine guys,
And they need to be able to see the whole thing,
or the
Right.
or the whole
even
thing.
if it's like 20, 30 blocks high. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking display. Would it be like a scroll?
Yeah, the
Okay.
scroll. Yeah. I would envision horizontally being more of a responsive, like fill out as much as you can, but for going down, you're gonna have to scroll.
Back it up.
Yeah.
So then, so that determines which text show, here. So if I pick all the groups, now my thing is really long, but, and then we didn't quite land on if we were gonna require that they had to pick a group. If they did, then would it just automatically, or if they didn't have to pick one, would it automatically show them all, or should we just force them to pick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all probably is fine to what you were saying. If it's 20 text, you just scroll down, but from view, it's obviously cleaner if you pick one, so you're only seeing 5 text and don't have to scroll. But I don't think
Right.
there's anything wrong with all being a possibility.
The date filler,
Mhm.
we see them, they have a 6-day work week, and you want to be able to see the same week for the whole week. So today's Friday, I would have 4 days in the past today, and then tomorrow would be a new day. Yeah.
What do you think our flexibility is on that? So like, we didn't get a chance to ask everyone their preferences. I'm thinking a lot of people like the Monday to Saturday view, but like the question would be if you would switch the date range to say, we're already on, Thursday, I want to see the next 5 days, like, would that work that you just change your date range, and it would just slide the dates? Like, we were trying to get a feel for how that would work, where basically the column headers are actual dates. We're thinking the default would be Monday to Saturday, but if you change your date range, it seems like it should be able to slide, but I don't know.
I guess what you could do is when you first initially load the page, it's set by, like, if it's Thursday, you have Thursday, and then you have Monday, like Monday through Thursday up before that, it's like already done. But then you could pick a single
Pick a
day.
different date, yeah.
Then you could pick Friday, and then it would change it so Friday is now the first day you see. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday of next week.
Mhm.
But then if you refresh the page, you're back to your initial view.
Mhm.
And then you don't pick 2 dates or something.
Yeah, that would work.
You just pick, what date to start with, and then it kind of shows you the next 6 days.
Next 6 days. Yep. So again, there's flexibility there. Whatever you think when you're doing it makes sense.
So the last one for that top section is the
This is
resource
Flare.
number.
Oh no. Oh, sorry.
No, that's not.
This one.
Oh, yeah, this is second to last. So you also have to be able to pigeonhole it by exact resource number of tech. So if I start out and I'm showing everybody in the Intercourse Combine shop, but I'm like, well, I really want to just look at Jeff and see what he's doing, or send him a screenshot of his day for today, or his week, or whatever, and tell him what he's going to be doing this week. Then you have to be able to make it just one person or one resource number.
I mean, how do you save that? Do those those resource groups change? Like if you have, like if you save a setting that's now invalid because somebody moved from one resource group to another and the person checked one person in this resource group, but now they're not even in that resource group, like we have to handle.
Can you make it just that it just doesn't save the resource number? I don't know.
Yeah, that one.
Like that's not part of the set, that's not something
That's
Like that's just not something that's saved.
okay. And resource groups themselves don't change that much, or?
Only when you add or remove a tag.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be frequent, but yeah, I think we'd have to.
But as far as like creating new resource groups,
It'd be rare. I haven't done it since we've been on EquipSoft,
okay.
but like I'm thinking one time, like if there's a batch of texts that go together. But yeah, the other thing we didn't even talk about, like, does it make sense for the text to have access directly to this? Like if we're actually liking the way it performs, like that is something where we're like, if that's a layer that we do at some point, we would want that resource number that they can basically see their schedule. Like it would
be like read only though.
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Oh, I don't feel like doing that job all the time.
Yeah, give that
myself.
to Kendall instead.
This is Flare part.
Oh, but Flare is fun, right, Jason? Jason always rolls his eyes.
I'll just make sure I don't get to that part until I'm done.
Well, I can't finish this part, but
Jason loves map stuff, though.
I do love
leave
map
this.
stuff.
You could leave this one for him.
I do, yeah.
It's not that hard.
So we were wondering if there could be a map button. So it would say, this is actually before the things make it onto the calendar. This would be pulling everything out of here and throwing it onto a map, because part of what they do is try and schedule jobs. We go pretty far away, so you try and schedule jobs in the same
Like the
area.
customer's address, sell to customer.
When you see, oh, these two guys are like 10 miles apart, I'll do them both on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then you would come back. There wouldn't have to be any integration. Like you would,
Just
like it would like pop it on a map on your second screen and be like, okay, these two I'm going to do on Tuesday.
yeah.
I'll do those on Wednesday.
Yeah, it doesn't have to come back
Okay.
into the thing, then just for them to see, it would have to use the document number at the service item line level to find the corresponding service header and pull all this stuff from the header, because it's not stored as a, and, well, customer name is, but they would need the name, so you would definitely make sure you use a mapping service that can handle that in the input, because some of them, I know, take addresses.
Which you can do when you go
Yeah,
to
like a custom label.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You wouldn't want like directions between them, you just want like pins on a map.
Yeah.
It's just to help in their scheduling
To
decisions.
be like, people are close to each other. So, based on the group or resource number filter, the left axis of the calendar changes to display all the selected text. It also has to show the name. So then, on the right-hand side, we have the sub-filters that are affecting what's showing for the service item lines on the bottom. We kind of have broken into sections, and it would have to be and logic. So if I pick schedule and a certain SVO type, it would
Shrink, always shrinking
making
the list.
the list get smaller.
Okay.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, like there's like 5,000 service orders, in EquipSoft. So it's like location, and now we're going to shrink to just this service order type, and just like
Right.
the idea is
Making
this.
it bearable.
Right, exactly.
So we did kind of talk about schedule and unscheduled already, but, so yeah, that's gonna have to be stored somewhere, whether it's in the service item line or on your schedule table, whatever you decide, it just has to remember it somewhere.
Is that what you were thinking made sense on, to be the piece going back to the service item line?
The connection to the,
Like you were saying, it's essentially the flag. It's like a
Yeah,
yes or no
I
flag,
think that would
saying
make sense.
whether or not there is an entry in the master table.
Yeah, I think that would need to be an Eclipse off if that's gonna be live, so we know, you
Right,
know.
yeah.
Because that'll be a web service call, then you could just send in that you just want to see unscheduled or scheduled.
Right. So the allocation section is bugger. So it has to be able to recognize this and only display the text that are in that group as options. So if there's nothing checked in there, it just has to display all of them, including the blanks, which we're thinking that most of them are blank. But if God wants to go in and be like, I just want to see what I already scheduled to, or what I already assigned to Bobby Joe, that he's able to do that. Just like kind of, how the week's looking or whatever they do.
And keeping in mind, that is, the right side is only
Yeah.
displaying the bottom.
That's right.
Like, if they actually want to only see Bobby Joe's schedule, they would do you don't have it up there, but if there's another filter there for resource.
Right. But
Right.
this is the ones that
see
I
the job.
already said Bobby Joe has to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So then all text is everything in the resource group and then the individual ones. Then our final section is just called other. But it also would use and logic because you'd be able to check more than one box within there. So every service order has a type, road, shop, setup, whatever. So that's a field at the header level. So again, you have to do a little thing to link the line to the header, and get the value from the service order type field.
How difficult would it be that it's responsive? Like, you know how in like an Excel table you can throw on like a quick filter thing and it will show you all the values that are like in the list. So for example, I don't necessarily want it to show every service order type that's a possibility in EclipseSoft. I would say, show me the service order types that are like in the
Oh yeah.
subset.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
are-
Like
So
that
it
is,
says drop down all service order types presently in the bottom box. So if all of my jobs in here is C road and C shop, so if I click this, it only would display C road and C shop, not all the 10 other service order types. Is that possible?
I mean, it's certainly possible. That data is going to be coming from a web service, so you're going to have to pull it into a table, then get all the distinct, and then populate it off of the distinct. We're going to change the data that's coming in. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I just see how it performs.
If it's not, then
A
the
lot of that
drop
stuff.
down has to scroll because there's a lot of states and these things.
there's like 20.
Because I'm just going to send Kendall like all the data. Here's all the service item lines. And then the web service, you can query it. You can't do like crazy queries, but you can query on a field and you can do an and to limit it down. And then once you have that set, then you can take the set and populate those boxes just based on the distincts in the set. You can't limit it. Like you have to take everything and then pare it down.
Right.
Use link, does it?
Because otherwise you don't know what to display in that box. You have to pull it first and then know what to display versus here's everything. We pre-filtered what's coming in, so your data set coming in is going to be a lot bigger with the pre-fills. Right?
Is there anything gained from like the different sections we have. Like, it's almost like the first block, it's only going to pull in for everything for your location and possibly like the scheduled or unscheduled. Like, so that's shrinking down the data
yeah,
set.
So that'll be smaller.
Like, so that's cutting it, but then this other stuff, I see what you're saying, in order to extract
To know
what
what
are
the-
the filters, that complicates it a little.
Well, when you make a query from the web service, you use link, that doesn't enumerate everything right away. So does the web service send you all of your data and then link starts working, or does it work like it does?
It does work, like link will filter the web service directly.
Right,
but-
send everything to the web service first.
No,
Okay.
not that I know of. Actually, no, because there's certain operations in link that you can't express in
Right.
the web service, and it gives you an error. Like link gives you an error, so it's actually it's filtering it directly.
So you can do
to
it,
the
should be
source
able to do it
directly.
fairly quickly.
But link is limited with web services, so theoretically, yes.
But, I mean, if that's too much of an issue, and since this stuff doesn't change that much, we'd always make a copy in another SQL table, and then have to sync it somehow.
Yeah.
It's more work to do the syncing, but
Yeah.
performance becomes an issue.
I mean, the other, well, yeah, because that's where, when it came in, for example, state was the same way, like,
Right.
where we have, I don't want to have to scroll through 50 states. In my intercourse jobs, it's probably going to be Maryland, PA, and New Jersey. So, like, it'd be nice to not have to. The only caveat that if that was a monster amount of, that was going to take 5 hours to develop, the other option is at the bottom, we have customer name and SVO, where it's like, literally, it's like if you're hunting something, like, I just want the barley service order. Like, you literally, we're thinking like a free form advanced filter, with asterisks on either side, like literally just saying, I just want the barley, and it takes that full data set and immediately takes you down to just the barley.
Right.
Technically, that could work for SVO type and state. Like, if it would drastically
Right.
simplify it, if it's like,
Right.
I just know I want my road SVO, just type in road, or I know I want setup, type in setup. Like, they know the SVO types enough. Like, where I was saying it was going to be annoying is if they had to scroll through things.
Yeah,
But the fact is, if it's literally, it would just be a free-form advanced filter where you just type it and it'll shrink it. I mean, it wouldn't allow you to select multiples. I mean, that's the caveat. You couldn't select New Jersey and Delaware. I guess you could teach them to throw in a.
Does
and
that
some.
other get saved? Because that would be incredibly complex now. The state.
Oh,
No.
no. We're only worried
Does
like
anything
that.
over there
Only
gets,
saving
just
at
the
the
top
top.
gets saved?
Yeah.
Just
Just pop it through.
I was just thinking of how mind-boggling that would be to try to reproduce the state and then.
No, and that's why if the saving last setting is hard, like that's where if we can get most of it saying like just we code for that user what we want their preset view to be, that would be suffice. Like every time this dude opens it up, it's going to say Middletown, Kubota.
So it doesn't need.
Then it doesn't need to
drive
worry
off
about
what he's
state.
doing.
It doesn't need
Okay.
to worry about state.
It could be like a configuration setup type thing.
A one-time, what do you want your default view to be? I want it to be Middletown, Kubota, and possibly you could say scheduled or unscheduled, but I don't even know if that would, I don't know if we even give them an option. Yeah, you just,
They can't click one
yeah,
box.
they can click on the box and that's it. So yeah, that, I would say evaluate the time on
Yeah.
doing that responsive,
Well, that would be for any of these, SBO type, priority, state, and county for the ones that we had said, could be dropped down. Everything else we had already said would just be free form. So, use your judgment.
Yeah, where it could get really tricky is like they will drive off each other, so each time you change one, all the other ones have to recalculate based on the new data.
Yeah.
True.
If we look back at the design, like, I mean, maybe it's just limited to those top two, scheduled and allocation. Or,
Yeah. I mean, this other
that's basically
filter section on the right, it really is intended to be just a list shrinker
Exactly.
of
Right,
like
right.
I know what job I'm after. I'm after that. I'm after all my Kubota setup jobs, or I know I'm after my New Jersey jobs or whatever.
Right.
So
So I mean,
whatever-
on the top, like the top, you're already limiting it, right?
Right.
And so then if you initially loaded it based on whatever came back and then just left it at that, or do you need them all to drive off each other? Like, so you have in combine, and then you pick an SBO type. Well, now it's only 2 lines, so the states have shrunk from 2 states to 1 state. Priority is dropped to whatever's in those 2 lines,
like
But then they
on
all
a
have to
website
readdress
where
themselves.
you're left bar where you're getting all the applicable filters that
Yeah, like Amazon, where
Yeah.
it's like everything is changing. Every
Yeah.
possible
So-
filter is changing.
So it's like, yes,
necessary.
there's oh, cool, that would be perfect, but
Right.
I don't think it's probably worth it.
Okay.
Like we just want a way to type in something to make the
And
list
make it get
manageable.
shorter. That's
Yeah.
what they do now with
Yeah.
their other search things.
Yeah, a lot of them, right, we found out don't know how to use the layering advanced filter. Like, so they just pick one of the filters and then start scrolling.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can add multiples.
Yeah.
There
It's
was-
not,
yeah,
it's
like
not
two
intuitive if
people.
you don't hit that arrow there.
Mhm.
It's not clearly shown.
Yeah.
So all that to say, yeah, I think just the fact that we have layered filters that you can just type something in, I really think that.
I mean, it's up to Kendall. I just want to know, like, if he gets into it, it's like, this is going to take me a
Yeah.
week,
Yeah,
or I could just do
don't,
it
the
the other way.
greater product getting done is more important
Yeah.
than that. I would consider that flare.
So all those other filters are freeform type fields. The only one that has anything strange about it is the repair status code.
Hmm.
So we need to always be excluding these 4 status codes, because those mean that the job is completed.
Hmm.
So we just don't ever want to bring in jobs with those repair status.
And if
Right, okay.
if they want to schedule something that's already done, they need to go update it in a
They need
book.
to write up the proper way to do it.
Right. Does it need to do anything to the things that were, like the squares that were already scheduled? Like, do they need to have some kind of status, or?
I see what you're saying, like you gray all of them that those jobs are done or something.
If we're doing it live, it's not necessarily going to be aware of what's. I mean, that could be like a nightly job. That could be a nightly job. Like, go back and find all the ones that.
Like the concept would be if you go back to like the schedule from 2 weeks ago, if all the jobs that are completed are like grayed out,
Oh, yeah.
it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think we could do it live.
Well, I don't think that would be necessary to be live.
But if there's something that runs that basically just takes everything in the database that's not already marked as done, I guess it would probably be, because they could change it to RepairCom and then change it back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it being live would make it so that they could schedule it, but then if something ran in the background and just checked everything,
Mhm.
and marked it Boolean to say this is complete or not complete.
Isn't the status in Eclipse?
Yeah.
When you're loading the page, you would have access to that.
You would,
So you wouldn't need to sync that, would you?
when you load the page, you'd have that, but you wouldn't want to recalculate everything historically every time you load the page. Like, you'd want to,
Right.
like, that would be fine at first, but then,
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a year it'd be.
and what you're pulling from Eclipsoft you're not pulling those, so how would you know?
So you're not pulling the status?
You wouldn't be
You
pulling
wouldn't
the
pull
ones
the
that
status
are
code,
done.
you wouldn't pull it, you would just be filtering on it, so it's
Right.
either they're there or they're not. I mean, I guess you could.
Actually, we're gonna want, that's on service item line, so it's
Okay.
probably one that we're gonna have displayed at the bottom,
Oh, okay.
because it's there, or it's not. It will be there, because they need to know if like, it says parts are on order, so I can't schedule it today.
Right.
So yeah, I think the bigger thing might just be a broader, like, historical, like, these jobs that are done, should they be, like, flagged as inactive on, like, the master schedule,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
archive it somehow?
I mean, you could do it like, you know what your dates are, so as you're filling those boxes that are there, you could dynamically see if the thing exists or not based on the web service. But then, like, if you need to go, like, if we need to build something later and it's not actually physically marked, then your calculation is gonna be that much more complicated, because if you go back like a huge period, and you
Yeah.
go, and you have, 20 techs, how's that gonna perform? When it's like, if it doesn't need to be, that probably doesn't need to be 100% current. The old stuff dropping off
Yeah,
visually.
I would say just, yeah, I don't know that it's necessary, but I
Okay.
think there's a long-term question of, archiving those completed
Yeah.
jobs, but.
So PTO.
Hmm.
So all techs are hourly, so the PTO is logged in T-sheet. So somehow to be able to pull that and say that, put it on the calendar as a job or a comment or something. And also T-sheets also has the amount of time they're off, which would be nice to display. If their PTO is in for 4 hours, it would say like tech number blah blah blah, PTO 4 hours on this day. You could just always drop it in the first quadrant, that's fine. But
Yeah, basically, we want single entry. And this is one of the things that is just wasting so much time, is they're like going in and logging the time in T-sheets for payroll, and then they're manually like having to go record it somewhere else to keep track of the guys off. So the API right now that populates T-sheet staging, I'm pretty sure it's just for speed. It's excluding that top level code that's like benefit time. Like, so T-sheets is all the payroll data, including both benefit days and service orders. So right now, the interface with EquipSoft, every 10 minutes, it pulls all the service order time from our T-sheets payroll app and loads it into the EquipSoft service orders. We're not doing anything with pulling down all of the, well, actually, you remember you built that that thing where they pull in, like you use that API, it's like on that server website where you can say, I want to look at all of my jobs that have comments, or all of my jobs that have a truck charge or something.
Yeah.
So that's the API. It would basically be saying, we want to pull down anything from T-sheets that had this top level code of PTO.
Okay.
And it literally would say technician, date, code like PTO or jury duty or whatever. It would just be data that essentially needs appended to the master table.
Right.
Like, it's just saying, I just have stuff that I just want to show up on the schedule
When, and how often does it need to be appended?
every second. I think, I think
That could be on the
overnight, one night
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just saying like, hey, they have upcoming PTO times on the schedule for this day. Like,
Right.
and it wouldn't have to worry about, well, do they already have something scheduled on that day? It literally is saying, we have a master table that has what's the tech, what's the date, and what's the job, and normally it's a service order, it literally would just be display,
Dumping it right in
here's
there.
the date, here's the time, their PTO is 4 hours, it shows up in quadrant 1 that they're going to be off that day.
Okay. Do they have to enter it like day by day, or can they?
They enter it day
just
by
like a
day.
range? Okay.
So, I mean, it's day by day, they can't do ranges, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. PR.
Then finally,
Oh, we're done.
So pulling based on the builders on the side, and we want to see the fields listed here. Most of them are at the service item line level. Few of them county, state, service order type are not. And then, so the work description can get pretty long and hairy, so we have to decide if we want to like truncate it at a certain number of characters to be displaying in that bottom portion. So it can be like sentences long. And then the last scheduled date is what, that field doesn't exist right now. That was what we had talked about with the red text for dates in the past, so that they know.
Yeah, well, how would we do that? And so first off, Jason, this bottom section, I think that's your list of data that you would expose for
yeah.
him. I mean, it's basically
Yeah.
all those fields, most of them are in service items, you just have to tie in a few from other
And they're
places.
probably a lot of them are already flow fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's simple in EclipseSoft.
Yeah.
It's just creating a page that has those columns, and then you make it a web service.
Good.
And
So,
then you can read and write to it.
so then the one thing or the resource allocated, that already is flowing from the resources allocated page, but like that's the one that we would say would be checking and possibly updating. Then we would have that other new field that's like scheduled, unscheduled, that would need added. But then the last one, that last scheduled date, that's just somehow flowing from the master schedule. Like, here's like the max date that guy is going to be working on it.
Yeah, that should be fine. I mean, it would just be a function in SQL that would just pass in the service order number, it would give you the last date. And then, so you get the data. That's what you would just put, and you just call this function to get that extra piece.
Okay.
Right?
It'll work.
Oh, yeah, we still have to design all this, but I'm just thinking of, it should flow.
Would it be easy enough that those, flip back to the visual, that would be sortable? That those headers across there?
They want to put them in some kind of order.
Yeah,
I think particularly.
it's just the standard table.
Yep.
Hey, Tyler.
Oh, hey.
I'm still here. I just wanted to make sure we wrap up fairly
Under the
soon.
table.
Yeah. So we can get Jason out of there close to the time he's supposed to normally leave. So was that everything you had to go over for this meeting?
Yep, that was it.
Can you go back to that design? I just want to look at one more thing here. I'm just wondering with your other filters, if they're all columns, then you
They
can
are.
save space and make the column headers the filter. And I think, I mean, aren't there a lot of like, that's fine. As long as there's not more filters than columns.
Right.
Because that would save space, and then aren't there like a lot of plugins for, I mean, you're using them now that do that filtering automatically. You just fill the table and then, like jQuery plugins for, I don't know what you guys are doing with the
No.
sorting.
The sorting is not done, it's on server side.
Okay. you had to build all that. There's got to be something though that,
There are some, but it
Rebuild
didn't
that.
work with what we were doing.
okay, but this you have total flexibility.
You are correct, Jason, that all of those, they're not all pictured now, but they all are on that list that we were just looking at of all those table fields, which is mainly service item lines with a few things tied in. But that's literally a block of data that if you just stacked and I want to filter by this, even the tech and the scheduled and unscheduled technically would be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I'm thinking you save that whole right side. And it's actually more intuitive because it's like, oh, I'm filtering this. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
you're right.
filter's right above on the column. You know what you're filtering.
Yeah, you're right. It'll give you more width.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we are very much open to that kind of flexibility of like, if there's a way that's easier to do it, that's just slightly different,
Great.
go for it.
Now the downside is we didn't say the allocation was going to dynamically filter based on what's in the line. So that would happen. I guess you could say whether it happens or not if you build something. But so when you picked, I guess that's what it's doing anyway, though, right? So in other words, if you don't have all your techs assigned to jobs, they wouldn't show up in that list.
Yeah, the main thing that would be used for
But that's only filtering the bottom, so that
Yeah.
would be
is
okay.
still the bottom.
Yeah.
It's like, that's for saying, hey, I want to see everything that we have scheduled for jobs that are currently assigned to Joe Smith in Equipsoft.
Yeah.
All you do, scheduled, Joe Smith, or you wouldn't even have to do scheduled, you just do Joe Smith assigned.
Yeah.
It's like, there's all my jobs, and you can actually see which are, like, there could be people who are creating their service orders, and when they do it, they say, this is going to be for Joe, this is going to be for Joe. When you come in here, it's like, show me all the jobs for, I know Joe Smith is going to do it, but I didn't yet drag it onto the schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're open to that.
Yeah, because then I think everything's headers and I don't think you want scheduled in there. Well, I guess that would be a column
Good.
too.
Yeah,
It could be the first column. like-
Yeah, just a little, yeah. Yeah, I think that would be easier to build too, because you already have,
Well, the stuff we're doing for used equipment, I would do it a little bit differently, because we can use everything in framework,
Right.
not just in core.
yeah.
There's some things that are missing. Yeah, it would be similar. That.
Whatever
Whole
you
bootstrap
think.
table solutions that do
There
it
are
all.
some, but they didn't do everything they needed to do.
Okay. In used equipment, but do they do it in this?
Not sure if you look again.
Betty, something. It cut down on development time.
Right.
Obviously doing whatever, if you want to build it yourself, I'm sure it'd be awesome, but.
And you're turning into that library for me.
Huh?
You'll turn into that library for me then, right?
So I think, obviously you're going to run into stuff like, how do you want this to behave? But I think framework-wise, we aren't going to be throwing too much more, saying, oh, and can it do this, right? Jason,
I hope not.
I have worked with you enough to know that you don't like, because it's disruptive if we throw something on later. So we really did try to get
no,
the whole
good.
shebang all at once.
It's an impressive list for 20 minutes, Tyler. You guys were really rifling through it.
The main work was done after the 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
It was not me.
So I guess one question, Tyler, is Jason and Kendall will have to kind of process through this, and we'll take a look at where we're at. And you already know we have the NAV 2018 upgrade that has to get done first. But let's say,
This is the priority.
yeah. Notice I didn't mention it on our call yesterday. But anyway, if we determine, hey, we can fit this in, you know that Kendall has a limited amount of time here. We're not exactly sure how long he's going to be working for Huber. Probably a month and a half for sure, maybe a bit more. But let's say those guys determine, hey, we can do it. We can possibly fit it in, at least the bulk of the work in the time frame that Kendall's going to be here. Would you just want us to go ahead and get started on this? You know, I mentioned that Equipsoft is looking at something, another product. I have no idea where that's going to go. Do we want to wait and see on that, or you're good to start having us develop it?
Full speed ahead.
Okay.
You have our support. Let's do it.
Okay. I would also say Jason's being very gracious, allowing Kendall to do some of this work, because Jason's been looking at this one for a while, saying that would be a fun project while he's doing all code refactoring and all that other work. And now Kendall's probably going to get to do the bulk of the work on this, but it's one that's a good fit for Kendall. So, yeah, I guess we'll let those guys kind of think through what you've told them next week, and we'll try to get back to you.
I'll close. My closing comment is I knew that Jason was eyeing this one up from a conversation a while back, and so I did jab him and say, I don't want to do this if it's rookie programming work, and he said, oh no, Kendall will do an awesome job with it. So
Okay. Yeah.
This is probably bad for me though too, because of all the visual stuff. I could see myself taking way too much time, like on pixels and like little things. Like it would look like this probably, but it would probably take me a long time. But it would be fun. Plus, Kendall's actually more up to speed on that stuff now. Like now that I've been out of it for 5 years, Kendall's actually more on the cutting edge of the .NET development than I am.
So, but yeah, we are, even with the 2018 stuff, I mean, we will be able to support this and keep things moving when there's questions. So.
Okay. So if they do have questions, get back to Angela, or how do you want to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to drop off the call then, guys. Thank you. I appreciate the time from everybody. So have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
See ya.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.